Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 28th March 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. So we will be covering 5 topics ranging from economics, governance, international relations and polity. So with this, straight away, let us move to the first article of the day. First news article, Sebi set to regulate index providers. See, this news article is about the stock market in India. We all came to know about the Heidenberg report, right? In that report, they said that the Adani enterprises have involved in illegal activities in order to increase their share value in stock market. So, as a response to this allegation, the Supreme Court has asked the Sebi and the government to let the people know about Sebi's existing regulatory framework so that we can know what provisions are there in that regulatory framework that can protect investors from share market volatility and fluctuations. As a response to this suggestion from the Supreme Court and to protect the interest of investors, the government has given the entire mandate of regulating the stock market to Sebi. So in this discussion, let us know about the share market and the related terms in detail. Here I will be discussing the terms one by one. First is about the stock market, then the second one is about demat, third is about depositories, fourth is about clearing houses, and fifth is about commodities market. Lastly, we can see about the Sebi so that you can answer any prelims based question from that topic. First is the stock market. See, in a financial system, there are areas from where we can raise money for investments. These areas are called financial markets. See, financial markets are all other markets where buying and selling takes place. But instead of usual things like goods, merchandise, etc., money and other financial assets are traded. And know that there are two different markets in the financial system. They are money market and capital market. See, money market is the place where one can get credit for a short-term basis. Short-term basis in the sense financial assets are traded for a maturity period that is less than a year. That is, we raise credit by issuing some authorized documents to some class of people and we have to repay those credits within 1 year. Example of such documents include T-bills, which is the treasury bills, certificate of deposits, etc. When we come to the capital market, same thing happens here. That is, we raise funds here by issuing authorized documents or papers but for a long-term period. Hence, we can say the capital market is characterized by long-term financial assets like bonds, debentures, etc. This market is crucial for our economy because it provides the financial resources required for long-term sustainable development of the economy. And this stock market that we are discussing here comes under this category only. As a whole, the capital market consists of development banks, commercial banks and stock exchanges like Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchanges that are mentioned in the article. And know that our Indian capital markets are regulated and monitored by Ministry of Finance, Sebi, that is the Securities and Exchange Board of India, and RBI. So in short, know that the stock market is a place where long-term capital are raised. That's enough. Second is about the demat. See, demat refers to a dematerialized account. Just as we open a bank account in financial institutions to save money and make payments, we need to open a demat account to buy and sell securities in the stock market. And know that the demat account is a requirement that is mandated by Sebi. And in the demat account only, shares and securities that we trade in stock markets are held electronically. So instead of physically holding the share or any legal documents, the investors hold it in electronic format using this demat account. And third is about the depositories. See, depositories are like banks where the securities like shares, debentures, bonds, government securities are deposited in electronic format. And know that the depositories is compared with a bank because it holds the fund for depositors. There are many other similarities in banks and depositories. Banks transfer money without having to handle money, right? Likewise, depositories facilitates transfer of ownership without having to handle securities. And while banks keep deposited money safely, depositories keeps security in that way. And know that in India we have two depositories. They are National Securities Depository Limited and the Central Depository Services Limited. And fourth is about the clearing houses. See, they are like a department in stock exchange, like a separate legal entity that provides various services related to clearance and settlement of trades. It also manages risks associated with the resulting contracts. In other words, a clearing house is often the central counterparty to all trades. That is, they act like an intermediary between the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer. And moreover, clearing house validates and finalizes the transactions and makes sure that both the buyers and sellers of securities fulfill their contractual obligations. Now coming to the commodities market, see, they are similar to stock market trading, but in stock market we saw shares, securities, bonds are traded. But in commodities market, commodities or physical goods such as corn, silver, crude oil and so on are traded. Here the physical trading and derivatives trading in commodities market can include spot prices, forwards, futures and options on futures and all. We shall be discussing about these terms in upcoming current affairs sessions. As of now, know that what is commodity market, that is enough. Sixth is about the Sebi. See, we saw about capital market, and within that we also saw about stock market, clearing houses, commodities market and all, right? We came to know all these involves money transactions and also transfer of legal documents. So for all these things to happen in a legal and correct way, we need to have some institutions to monitor, right? That kind of institution is the Sebi. See, Sebi stands for Securities and Exchange Board of India, and know that it is India's securities and commodities market regulator. See, Sebi is a statutory body which is established in accordance with the provision of Sebi Act of 1992. Initially, Sebi was a non-statutory body without any statutory power, but it became autonomous and given statutory power by the Sebi Act of 1992. Know that the headquarters of the Sebi is situated in Mumbai and the regional offices of Sebi are in Ahmedabad, Kolkata, Chennai and Delhi. Know that the Securities and Exchange Board of India's fundamental function is to protect the interest of investors in securities. In addition to it, Sebi also encourages the growth of stock market in the country through regulations and monitoring of the securities market. And know that as of now, the securities market in India is regulated by 4 key laws. They are Companies Act, Sebi Act of 1992, Securities Contract Act of 1956 and the Depositories Act of 1996. Let us see what are the purpose of these legislations one by one. If we take the Companies Act of 2013, this act regulates the companies that are registered in India. To enforce some of its provision, this law has delegated the authority to Sebi. Provisions including regulation of raising capital, corporate governance norms and resolution of investor grievances are now enforced by the Sebi. And in that manner only, Sebi came up with a set of guidelines called Disclosure and Investor Protection Guidelines. So this is what Companies Act of 2013 has provided to the Sebi. And next, if we take the Sebi Act of 1992, we already saw Sebi got the statutory status from this law. And this law empowers Sebi in doing many other regulatory works. That is, this act empowers Sebi to register intermediaries like stockbrokers, merchant brokers, portfolio managers and also regulate their functioning. In addition to it, Sebi can impose penalties such as monetary penalties including suspending or cancelling the regulation of such intermediaries. The third act is the Securities Contracts Act. This act also empowers Sebi and it allows Sebi to recognize and de-recognize stock exchanges. And one of its primary tasks of regulating trading, clearing and settlement of on stock exchanges are done by Sebi through this act only. And fourthly, when we come to Depositories Act, know that it was introduced to give legal sanctions to dematerialized securities that are held in the electronic format. And the Securities Appellate Tribunal, it is also a statutory body that hears and disposes appeals against the orders that are passed by Sebi. So that is all about the stock market from the exam point of view. So in this we saw in detail about the components in financial market and also about Sebi. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the second topic of the day. Second topic, screening for autism. How to assess and identify the severity of the disorder. Let us deal with this topic purely from exam point of view. I'll be telling only the important points about the autism here. Firstly, let us know about autism and then let us see what is said in the article. See, autism is not a disease that can be cured. It is only a condition that arises from certain neurobiological factors. And autism is a complex developmental condition that affects the social communication, interaction and behavior of a person. See, if we take the characteristics of a person with autism, they will have a lifelong set of developmental impairments in domain of communication and social responsiveness. Here, the person is accompanied by a set of restrictive and repetitive behaviors. And also the research suggests that sleep disturbances, fragmented sleeping, frequent and prolonged night waking impacts over 80% of children with the condition of autism. In addition to it, the article mentions about the report that is named as Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Know that this book is a handbook that is used by doctors and researchers to diagnose and study mental health conditions. This handbook assesses the condition of autism in person and classify autism based on the severity. Accordingly, it has 3 levels of support to describe the severity. Level 1 is where a person with autism may have social challenges like starting trouble in having a conversation and they also find it difficult to make friends. So a person with level 1 severity needs some help to overcome these social challenges. Likewise, there are level 2 and level 3 where a person with autism might need the highest level of support. Then the article mentions the moment when autism is identified. See, autism can be identified during a very early stage itself. That is even during the 18 to 24 month period of a child. During this early period itself, the child's cognitive and language skills and even the sensory issues are evaluated by the doctors at the time of routine healthcare visits. But for older individuals, symptoms of autism may be noticed by their parents or teachers. So, identification of autism in a person is not a difficult task, but it can turn difficult when the symptoms shown by the person are similar to other mental health conditions. And now, if we take the tools that are used for screening the person suspected to have developed the condition of autism, first is the checklist for autism in toddlers. See, using this tool, 20 question test for children aged 16 to 30 months are given, and based on the question test, the child's cognitive and language skills are evaluated. But the article here mentions that this test may not be sufficient to test the condition of autism in female children and those from low income backgrounds. And the second tool which is used is the screening tool for autism in toddlers and young children. This test has 12 activities to assess the play, communication and imitation among the young children. This also helps in identifying the condition of autism. Now, coming to the steps taken by the Government of India to tackle autism, first is the recognition of autism as a disability under the Right of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016. Secondly, the bulk of learning for autistic children in most schools, privates and NGO run schools is implemented through individualized education plan. And through this plan, it contains many activities like joining dots, tracing letters and putting objects from one container to the other, etc. Thirdly, in 2019, AIMS launched an app named Ped Neuro AIMS Diagnostics. The app aims to help in early detection of autism, but in spite of such measures taken, we find it difficult to address the condition of autism. Let us see the challenges associated with combating autism. First is low awareness and the stigma attached to it. The second factor is the low availability of data. See, as per the India statistical profile from 2021 about a person with disabilities, autism has not been classified since the data is taken from the census data of 2011. For instance, in the year 2019, All India statistic reveal a total of 10,338 persons with autism in India. But the government of Delhi has reported 0 cases like many other states. But this is not the ground reality, right? Then the third factor is about the spectrum of conditions. See, autism is not a single condition. There are many autisms. And autism research shows that it is a spectrum of conditions. So there are many suggestions which are provided in order to combat autism. Let us see that one by one. First is health education and awareness campaigns. The second factor is the autism screening. This is because there are no biomarkers to detect the risk of autism. So ramping up of autism screening is very much important. Then the third point is the dynamic curriculum framework. The curriculum framework should be dynamic and responsive to the spectrum of autism, which is the need of the hour. For that, the Rehabilitation Council of India, NCRT and NIOS must collaborate on the creation of learning material and teacher training programs for individualized education planning. Fourth point is about the autism awareness campaign. See, this is needed to popularize legal rights and government benefit schemes, which include free education and financial support for benchmarked disabilities. And also know that the National Institute of Empowerment of Persons with Multiple Disabilities under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment disseminates such informations. So these are the suggestions which are provided in the discussion. So with this, let us close the topic and move to the third topic of the day. Third topic, EPFO says it has no direct investments in the individual stock. The news article reports highlights the stand of EPFO. See, there were news circulating that the EPFO had invested in Adani group of companies, and so any downfall in the share of value of Adani firms will have a negative impact on EPFO. But the EPFO has clarified by saying that EPFO has made no direct investments in any individual stocks. So from this news article, let us know about the EPFO from prelims point of view. See, EPFO is a statutory body formed under the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1952, and know that the schemes framed under the act are administered by the tripartite board, which is also known as Central Board of Trustees. This Central Board of EPFO consists of representatives from government, that is from both the state as well as the central government, then employees as well as employers. Also know that the board is assisted by this Central Board of Trustees is assisted by EPFO, and this board is administered by the Ministry of Labour and Employment under the Government of India. Here we have to know that EPFO is one of the world's largest organization in terms of clients and the volume of financial transactions that are undertaken by it. And the central board that I have mentioned here operates through the EPFO, implements 3 schemes. First is the Employees Provident Fund Scheme of 1952. Second is the Employees Pension Scheme of 1995. Third is the Employees Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme of 1976. Then from prelims point of view, know that there is a grievance redressal mechanism of EPFO known as EPFI Grievance Management System. See, it is a customized portal of EPFO with an aim to redress grievances for the services which are provided by EPFO. Here, the grievances can be lodged at any place and will be forwarded to the concerned office to which the grievances are put forward. Importantly, know that the EPFO also manages social security agreements with other countries. For instance, international workers are covered under the EPFO plans in countries with whom India has signed a bilateral agreement. And finally, know that the government of India launched a universal account number for employees covered by the EPFO. This is done to ensure the portability of Provident Fund number. This Provident Fund number, that is the universal account number, is a 12-digit number allotted to employees who are contributing to Employee Provident Fund, and in addition, this is generated for each of the PF members by EPFO. So this is regarding EPFO and also the schemes associated with it. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the fourth topic of the day. Fourth topic, a shared G20 vision for the ocean commons. This news article highlights opportunities that are available to India to put forward a global effort towards the best use of blue economy. This news article gains significance as India takes over the presidency of G20. So in this context, let us know about G20 first, and then let us see what is said in the article. First is about G20, Group of 20. See, the Group of 20 is the premier forum that deals with international economic cooperation, and it plays an important role in shaping and strengthening global architecture and governance on all major international economic issues. Know that G20 is an informal group of 19 countries and the European Union. Alongside these individual countries, it also has the representatives of IMF and the World Bank. See, G20 is getting high relevance in today's global economic spheres because the G20 membership comprises a mix of world's largest and advanced economies, which means together the G20 members represents more than 80% of world's GDP, 75% of international trade, and 60% of world's population. Coming to the history of G20, know that G20 was formed in the year 1999 after the Asian financial crisis. After such an economic crisis, a forum for the financial ministers and central bank governors was constituted to discuss global economic and financial issues. This forum is what we call the G20. Then this forum later got upgraded to the level where the head of the state or the government started attending the G20 meet. And after the impact of global economic and financial crisis of 2007, this G20 was designated as the premier forum for international economic cooperation. And you can see the list of G20 countries given here. Aspirants can refer to that. See, G20 often keeps appearing in news because India holds the presidency of G20 from 1st December of 2022 to 30th November of 2023. And in addition to this, the article quotes a relevant fact where the G20 countries together account for 45% of world's coastline and over 21% of exclusive economic zones. So with such high volume of resources, G20 countries should focus more on blue economy. That is what the article is saying. And because blue economy causes not just ocean dependent economic development, but also it leads to inclusive social development and ecological security. Also know that even our Prime Minister said that the blue chakra in India's flag represents the potential of ocean economy. So we can infer that blue economy has gained prominence in the recent times because of the amount of wealth that ocean ecosystem can produce. But is this the first time that India is recognizing the value of blue economy? The answer is no, because we have already initiated number of schemes and measures to harness the potential of ocean ecosystem. Here the article lists the number of measures that are taken by the government of India. First is the Sagarmala. See, the Sagarmala initiative promotes port-led development. And then the shipbuilding financial assistance policy encourages domestic shipbuilding. Then the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is for fisheries development in a sustainable and responsive manner. Then the government has come up with Sagar Manthan dashboard, which helps track vessels in real time. Then the Deep Ocean Mission of Government of India helps in exploring the deep sea resources in the exclusive economic zone and in the continental shelf region of Indian Ocean. Then the adoption of coastal regulation zone to classify coastal regions and ecological sensitive areas for better conservation and management is undertaken by India. Then one of the bold step which was taken by the government of India was the ban on single-use plastics. See, as the host of World Environment Day in the year 2018, Prime Minister pledged to eliminate single-use plastic. And then in later times, the global community rallied together to address the plastic pollution. In 2022, many countries, on seeing the success India had gained through effective implementation of plastic ban, they came forward to replicate that in their countries. Then in 2022, India introduced an amendment to the plastic waste management rules, through which policies for extended producer responsibility was introduced in waste management. So these are the few initiatives that are undertaken by the government of India, which gives the position of strength to India in G20 forum. And here one must know that the blue economy is a key priority area under the Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group of G20. So from the points I listed above, we can see how relevant are the actions and the call made by India with respect to blue economy. India not only calls for sustainable and equitable economic development through ocean, but India has taken various measures at the national level to do what it has been suggesting. So under India's presidency, the author hopes that G20 forum would ensure continued discussion on the critical subject. And by this way, G20 forum would encourage the future G20 presidencies to take blue economy as a high priority area. And after this, the author highlights the challenges that are that G20 countries would face with respect to developing the blue economy. Here he says extreme weather events, sea level rise, and ocean acidification are certain challenges for building blue economies. Secondly, growing marine pollution, over-extraction of resources, and unplanned urbanization also poses certain significant threats to the ocean management. See, oceans are global resources. Their ownership nor the claim on them cannot be claimed by particular nations. Even if oceans are under the control of just a handful of nations, the negative impact of ocean ecosystems such as sea level rise, cyclones will not affect these handful of nations alone. Rather, the impact of ocean ecosystem have ripple effects across the globe. Therefore, the responsibility of their protection, conservation and sustainable utilization lies with all nations. So the article here highlights the need for multi-stakeholder approach in the ocean management. Finally, the article concludes by mentioning the potential of G20 forum in having a discussion about the blue economy. Then further, the author says that this forum presents an excellent opportunity to build an effective communication with all stakeholders, so that multiple stakeholders in the management of ocean ecosystem can share their best practices and foster collaboration in various aspects. So this is what are the points that are mentioned in the news article. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the final topic of the day. Fifth topic, the disqualification conundrum. On March 23rd, the Surat court declared Rahul Gandhi as guilty and sentenced him to 2 years in jail for a defamation case. So this topic is regarding that only. See, the reasons for conviction and the impact of conviction and all are explained in previous two discussions. You can watch the news analysis video of 26th and 27th March for further detail. But here we will once again be covering the working of disqualification, because it is very much important from exam point of view. See, firstly, the disqualification of lawmakers is prescribed in three situations. Firstly, it is prescribed in the Constitution itself under the Article 102 and Article 191. This deals with the disqualification of MPs and MLAs. Here the grounds include holding an office of profit, or being of unsound mind, or not having any valid citizenship leads to disqualification under the Constitution. Then the second ground of disqualification is in the 10th schedule of the Constitution. This provision provides for the disqualification of members on the grounds of defection. And the third prescription is under the Representation of People Act 1951. This law provides for the disqualification for conviction in criminal cases. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is disqualified under this provision only. And the disqualification of an MP convicted for an offence can happen in two instances. First, if the committed offence for which one is convicted has to be listed in the section 8 subsection 1 of the RPA Act. This includes offences such as offence of promoting enmity between different groups, or offence of bribery, or offence of undue influence in elections leads to disqualification under the RPA Act. And the second provision is with respect to the section 8 subsection 3 of the RPA, which mandates that an MP can be disqualified if convicted and sentenced for 2 or more years in imprisonment. So taking this second provision into account, Rahul Gandhi was disqualified from being an Lok Sabha MP because he was sentenced to a maximum imprisonment of 2 years. Now here the article talks about the section 8 subsection 4 of the RPA Act. According to this section of RPA, a convicted MP or an MLA will not be disqualified for 3 months from the date of conviction. So 3 months grace period is given to them so that they could file an appeal in High Court. And if the convicted MP or an MLA files an appeal within that 3 months time, the conviction sentence from the lower court will be put on hold, and we will have to wait to the judgment from the higher court. This subsection 4 of the section 8 was struck down in 2013 by Supreme Court in Lilly Thomas versus Union of India case. By upholding the principle of rule of law, the Supreme Court said that there cannot be one law for common citizen and one law for the representative. So, if an MP or an MLA is convicted, the judgment cannot be put on hold, or they cannot be stayed till the time the higher court decides on the appeal filed by the convicted person. And even after this judgment, the government tried to introduce an ordinance to protect this section. But ultimately it did not happen. And during the Lilly Thomas case hearing itself, the government defended this protection clause for sitting lawmakers by saying that such protections for lawmakers are essential for a stable government. Secondly, such dismissals from the membership of the House would also lead to the conduct of by-elections. And there is another problem here. If suppose the convicted MP or an MLA is acquitted by the higher court also, they would have already lost their membership of the House, right? So any reversal of decision from the appeal will not restore the person's membership in the House. Then the final argument by the government is that Parliament through its law had just postponed the execution of the sentence, and the section 8 subsection 4 did not treat the common citizens and the representatives in a different way. But the Supreme Court was not convinced with the government's action, so this section was declared as unconstitutional. But what can be the possible solution to this problem? The article itself suggests certain solution. It says the Secretariat to wait till the time the convicted member approaches the higher courts for stay of conviction. Once the courts order the stay on conviction, the Secretariat of the respective houses should restore the membership of the representatives, which means that the MPs or MLAs shall hold office until the appeal is disposed by the higher court. But initially, the higher court should have ordered the stay on conviction sentence imposed by the lower court. And at the same time, the Secretariat can notify a vacancy if the application for a stay is rejected by the higher court. So this is what is said in the article. So in this news article, we saw about the working of disqualification and also about the government's stand on the section 8 of subsection 4. So with this, let us close the news article discussion and move to the question discussion. Coming to the previous year prelims question, let us consider this first question. Which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effects? Options given are option A, repayment of public debt, option B, borrowing from the public to finance a budget deficit, option C, borrowing from the bank to finance a budget deficit, option D, creating a new money to finance a budget deficit. See, borrowing from public and banks will lead to decrease in the money supply in the market. So in both the options, money in hand is reduced for the public, and even the banks will have lesser money to lend. So these two options will not lead to inflation. Considering these two options, creation of new money to finance a budget deficit will have more inflationary effect than repayment of debt. So the correct answer for this question is option D, creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. Coming to the second question, R2 Code of Practices constitutes a tool available for promoting the adoption of option A, environmentally sustainable practices in electronics recycling industry, option B, ecological management of wetlands of international importance under the Ramsar Convention, option C, sustainable practices in the cultivation of agricultural crops in degraded lands, option D, environmental impact assessment in the exploitation of natural resources. See, R2 stands for responsible recycling, and it is a standard specifically created for electronics recycling by the Sebi, which is called as Sustainable Electronics Recycling Initiative. So the correct answer for this question is option A, environmentally responsible practices in electronics recycling industry. Then coming to the mains practice question, examine the need and the role of robust coastal ecosystem in India's economic growth and security. Aspirants can take note of this question. You can write the answers and post it in the comment section for peer review. So with this, we have come to the end of the news articles and question discussion. Let us wind up this session. If you can understand the concepts well, and if you like the method of teaching, please like, share, comment and subscribe to ForumIAS in various social media platforms. Thank you.